But good, I think we can get started. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on the next episode of Bits and Bolts, your bi-monthly coffee tech break. I think this month we'll actually have 3, so it's quite an interesting time. As you are probably familiar with us already, Stuart Clark, African Territory Manager, Armand Sammy, DACH and Netherlands Territory Manager. We are usually the two hosting this. If you ever have questions, comments, complaints, reach out to Stuart. Everything else, my email is right there. We did want to share the positive news. This is the 10th episode of Bits and Bolts. So we wanted to thank you all very much for joining and being a part of this, for your questions and feedback. It's very much appreciated. And it just, I know for me and Stuart, it makes joining and organizing and planning these events so much more exciting and something we look forward to on a weekly basis. A special thanks to the current ticket draw, let's say, winners. So if you see your name on this list, this means you have attended a lot of Bits and Bolts and you have one of the higher chances to win the prize at the end of prizes at the end of the year. So stay tuned for that, and thank you all very much. With that, we'll jump into the 11th episode, which is formed around the topic of customization. Customization, firstly, of your SureMDM toolbar, and secondly, of the SureMDM applications themselves. So we'll talk about some use cases here, and of course, on a very high level, what we mean by customization. For those which are new, of course, you can always check our knowledge base, and I'll make this a little bit larger so you can see it. But coming to the knowledge base, either clicking on SureMDM or just using the search function and doing toolbar customization, you'll be able to find the exact steps on what you need to do and how and to configure, and then at the end where you're going to see the configurations and changes that you've made. But we'll go into a little bit more detail than this, and maybe I'll try to give some examples of why this is something I think is quite interesting and helpful in many cases for some very unique use cases. With that, I'm going to dive into the SureMDM console. Again, I'll make this just a little bit larger so you all can see it. I have my Bits and Bolts device here, but what's more interesting is the quick actions toolbar or the dynamic actions, which I have up here. If I click on these 3 dots here, which are the more option, we will notice I have a little, or my view here might be a little bit different than the view that you have yourselves. For instance, you might notice that I do not have SureLock or SureFox on this list. However, I do have something which is time for bits and bolts. So let me explain why this looks different and what this time for bits and bolts notification alert is. Essentially, we have the option in many ways in the MDM, we do this quite often, but to customize this experience. So what these options are here, you can actually define not only for yourself, but for other users as well, to remove things that might potentially be dangerous. Let's say, for instance, wipe devices, and to add things which might be more helpful, or maybe it's an action that a user takes on a daily basis. I also have certain clients which are removing the option of applying a job because there are just too many jobs that could potentially be dangerous, but instead they are allowing lower level admins a much more robust dynamic actions field. So you cannot, let's say for tech support, you cannot come in here and just apply any job and make a, let's say, a major change or change a profile. But there are specific actions that you at your level are permitted to take. And these actions we have added as a custom toolbar. How you do that is quite simple. We go up to the settings option, this gear at the top right, and then we come down to account settings. So of course, a user that has access to account settings needs to change this. But once you come over to account settings on the left-hand side here, of course, you can also use the search as well. But I'm going to scroll down to customize settings. And here, we're going to talk about customized toolbar. Now, once I click here, you see that I have a couple options, a couple things that I can do here. One of them is disable or enable different, let's say, default actions that are kind of provided to every account as you sign up for a new MDM. You might notice that some of the things here are different. What do I mean by different? For instance, we have Intel AMT as an option, and you didn't see this, or you would not see this if you're only managing Android. So these are also dynamic. They're very specific to a operating system. But these are all things that you can turn on or turn off as required. And let's say, for instance, remote control is the most important thing that you have. You can move that to the very top. So it's the first option, the first thing available to you, and might be one of those first 4 options that you saw on the MDM home screen, versus I don't use terminal a lot, so I can move that down. I can move SureLock up. I can customize my quick options, my dynamic jobs options to look and feel however I want them to. These are the ones, of course, that we have given you. These are the defaults. If you scroll down, this is where it gets real interesting. We have the option to make user-defined jobs. Now these here, if I come here and click on add, would allow me to name it however I want. So let's just, as an example, do enable lost mode Android, because the lost mode I have here is for iOS only. I can browse and use any of the different icons which I want. So what looks like it might kind of work here. Let's use the circle with the check around it. I'm going to hit add, and then I can come here and I can then select, let's say, lost mode on. I can push OK, OK, and then apply the changes. I won't do that now. It takes a little bit of time to reflect. Actually, let me show it to you. And now here, just to give you an example, I have 3. One of them is Linux specific. This one's Android. And I created this one before, the time for bits and bolts. Just to show you what time for bits and bolts is, I've set it here. Here's the icon. And I've selected an alert. So it's an alert message, bits and bolts. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Push OK and apply changes. What you will notice is if I come over to the home screen, it does take a little bit of time to reflect. So I had added the time for bits and bolts originally. You might need to refresh the browser or log out and then log back in for the turn on lost mode feature to suddenly show up. But just to give you an example, this is my bits and bolts demo device. This might get a little bit loud, so I'm sorry, but if I click for time for bits and bolts, we're going to see that a job or action has been pushed. Right now it's pending to go onto the device. And then once it has been received, what will happen is this device will get that notification. So all we have done here is mapped a particular action. This is the alert notification. And then here, you're going to see that the enable lost mode option is now also available. So you can add, change. Sorry, I'm not sure why this has taken so long to go through, but demo gods are not with me this Tuesday. Essentially, we would have had a notification pop up on the device here. The alert notification is quite interesting as well, just as a little bonus. If you ever have played around with it or wants to see what it does, you can click here, modify, and it essentially lets you customize an entire display. So it's not the same as if you were, let's say, using the messaging option. There's no option to message back to the MDM console. But here I had created an alert that said bits and bolts test. That was just the name of the job. But the alert's title was bits and bolts demo. You can change the font size, select the font color. Same for the actual alert message. And then you can kind of set icons how you want it to apply. The second option is, of course, like any good notification, you can buzz or enable this action so that a little bit of sound or some type of, let's say, other than the visual indication of an alert, that there is some audible or maybe vibration interaction as well. And then you can also close the pop-up after a certain period of time. I have had clients use this in a use case where they are maybe on one desk setting up 50 plus devices, and they need to know when a device is finalized, when everything has been completed on this job. And they have created a alert message which will pop up and stay on the device until it's dismissed. But this way, when they come back to a device after 5-10 minutes, When that message is visible, they know that is done. And that device can now be packed and shipped out to wherever it needs to go. With that, I will hand off to Stuart to talk about the next customization in account settings.
Perfect. Thank you. I love that that example. I've never thought about it before. So it's yeah, it's a really good one. Great. Perfect. Have you got my screen now, Mark? You able to see it?
Yes.
Good, good. All right. Well, I guess I could make it large, but it's but I'm going to jump off this in the next couple of seconds anyway. So as someone said, keeping with the logic of the customizing within SureMDM, I'm going to chat about how we can customize our SureMDM apps, and specifically for Android and for Windows. And you'll see as well that the ability to be able to customize SureLock is one of those at the same time. So let me jump into the console. In essentially the same place that Armand went to a little bit earlier, following our settings button, the top right hand side, we're going to go into account settings and then into our customize settings option. And where you were obviously going for the customize toolbar, we're going to use the option below, which speaks of customizing the SureMDM agent, the next agent, and SureLock. And there are obviously various ways of going about doing this, and I have seen it being used in various applications. Probably the most common that I can think of from an Android perspective was in some of our customers that are using devices mainly for display purposes. So a device that wouldn't have a camera or potentially a scan engine in order to be able to do a QR code enrollment, for sake of an example. And you know, potentially this display wouldn't necessarily have a keypad, and may even have the onboard keypad disabled by default because of the fact that it's being used in a display type of environment. So capturing the SureMDM account ID or the server path is probably a pain. And so the ability to pre-build that and wrap that into I guess what we could call a sort of an app wrapped next agent or SureMDM agent is really helpful. So you'll see, as I mentioned, and I'm going to look at Android to start, SureMDM agent, and we have the possibility to be able to create the customized SureLock agent. We have the ability to be able to add your parameters, your account ID, your server, your SureMDM agent password, and the selection of how it's protected. So either view and edit or just view. You'll see on the drop down, or sorry, just edits on the drop down. And then if you follow the concept of, I guess, what we would have done within a QR code type enrollment, the ability to name or select the device naming convention, whether we enable the mailbox within that environment on the home screen. So you would normally have settings and mailbox on your next agent when you open it. And then lastly, the ability to select the group path, or where the folder or which folder the device would be enrolled into. This is what we would call kind of the key or the summarized settings. We also have the ability to go to what we would call the advanced settings. And I've obviously imported an XML list, but you'll see within our environment there is the possibility to be able to capture what I would call, I guess, a template of XML code, and then the option to be able to edit. And you'll see, I'm going to scroll through here, the ability again on a more, I guess, text-based level to be able to control not only things like the account ID and the server URL that you found in the key settings tab, but other parameters, including the ability to set up Wi-Fi, again, using the reference of the QR code type environment. You'll see as I scroll down various features that can be enabled and disabled, but ending with the ability to populate a Wi-Fi environmental condition that would be applied or enabled on the devices as part of the enrollment. So I guess, and I have had a couple of our partners and potentially some of those who are joined on this call who've created this and made it their own. So it doesn't need to be SureMDM agent. It could be partner agent. It could be whatever your company name is. And the icon used on the display of the device can be changed to your own company logo at the same time. So I guess a really nice way to be able to create your own custom front end of what would have traditionally been the next agent. Just a reminder, obviously, this would follow our manual deployment or manual enrollment steps. So the permissions or the fully managed environment is obviously not available in this. But what we would have known as, or what you would have known as device admin type enrollment is obviously perfectly possible in this. The same idea, obviously.
I mean, I would add, Stuart, I see it used quite often in, like, if you're using an OEM's enrollments tool.
Correct.
Then you can also upload or point to this APK.
Absolutely. And it obviously makes it significantly easier if you're bundling various other configurations with that particular OEM tool. So yeah, great example. Again, looking at Android, and if we go to SureLock, the same concept applies. The ability to name the console or name the application. So again, partner lock, partner kiosk, whatever it is that you may choose to use, the ability to import, and this is where I wanted to show you. SureLock has something that would be really helpful for, I would imagine, for a number of you. If you were to go to your jobs and you had created, and I've got a template or a sample SureLock job that I created that already has everything that I need, I have the possibility to be able to save that as a file. It becomes an XML file and it becomes available within your traditional sort of download environment or path. And if I jump back to my account settings, there is obviously the ability to be able to go and import that XML file. So specifically, as I said, for SureLock, I would say that the large majority of the time that I've seen this being used is where our partners and customers have gone, found the SureLock settings file that was created, and then they already have this variable that was created. A whole lot easier than sitting and modifying some XML text or code. And you can see obviously the ability to be able to add and remove it at this point. The same again, the ability to customize that launcher icon. So we really are giving you the ability to make this your own and you know, obviously enable it or pass it on to your customers in a way that makes them feel like this is coming directly from you. Obviously, that covers Android. From a Windows perspective, I would say I've seen this used more than Android, and this was largely for customers of ours who were deploying SureMDM through, as an example, a group policy, or perhaps even an email with an instruction to a user to click on a particular path, maybe a network path, to begin the installation of the Mix agent on their Windows devices. And everything that I've described before in terms of the key or summary settings, the account ID, server path, passwords, and the machine naming convention is available. Or we have the option to be able to go to advanced, import our XML string, and go and manipulate that in the way that you would potentially need. What I didn't touch on, and obviously this becomes, I guess, the final point of what you need to be able to do. Whenever you've created these particular jobs, you've got to use the generate button first. And this takes a short while. In my testing, it was about 30 seconds. Once that file has been generated with your specific configuration, it is then available, and you will see the download button becomes an option and no longer grayed out. And you have the ability to be able to download it and, as I said, put it into maybe an OEM setup utility that you have, or transfer it to a device that you're expecting to be able to handle a more manual-based enrollment method. I hope that's clear. It's obviously something that we keep hidden, but for those of our partners who find it very helpful and who have used it before, I know there are many of them that really you know, this becomes something that is a regular use case within their type of deployments. And obviously, any help that you may need, please feel free to reach out to one of us or to our technical support team who can walk you through these steps at any time. Good. Let me get that deeper voice ready for the breaking news. So it's been a dream of mine to release some breaking news for many years, but no, you know, I wish it was perhaps more exciting than this. But obviously, because of the fact that you know, you have joined our bits and bolts series, and this still is going to be released as part of a marketing mailer and a couple of other updates that will go out from our product marketing team. But you may already have noticed, if you've been playing around in our hubs, hub or SureMDM console, that the data allocation or the storage allocation to all of our consoles, both trial and customer-owned consoles at this point in time, was updated on Monday to 5 GB. It's a jump from 1. So we're obviously quite excited, and I think in some of the discussions that Armand and I were having earlier, and I would imagine for some of you as our partners, you would have experienced this, where obviously a large number of our partners and customers are expecting to be able to deploy or update firmware on some of their devices. But this obviously means a significant change in not having to request or potentially pay for that additional storage as it was in the past. So yeah, please obviously mention it to your customers if you would like. Like I said, there will be some marketing material going out on this, but feel free to take advantage of it in the meantime. Did I do okay for my first breaking news newscast?
I think so.
Perfect. Good. And then just a reminder, please, for those of you obviously who are joining more regularly, and for those of you who are new joiners of this Bits and Bolts series, we do this every 2 weeks. You can see the dates for August, and the months following that will be added. Obviously, from November, for those of us outside of the UK, the timing will change. But yeah, it obviously will be sent to you on reminders, as we've said before, coming directly from the GoToMeeting platform the day before and an hour before the meeting takes place. And then lastly, as we've said a couple of times, please feel free, questions if they aren't already, and I'll check with Gabby in a couple of seconds, but please feel free to reach out to our partner marketing team, our technical support, or directly to Armand and myself with any questions about the topics that we've raised and anything else, suggestions. We obviously pick these topics based on things that Armand and I have gone through over the weeks before, and things that we feel would be relevant or useful, but we would be completely open to suggestions from our partners as to what you'd like us to focus on. Gabby, were there any questions I haven't seen so far?
No, it doesn't look like any questions today.
Okay, perfect. Good. Well, please feel free to drop either of us an email if there's anything that pops up, and once we've completed. And then that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. Next date, obviously, the 30th of July, and I think it may be Armand by himself. I'm not here on the 30th, but yeah, either way, we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye-bye now.